Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. So today will probably be the most extensive manifestation video I have ever filmed. This is basically part 2 to the TikTok video that I posted. So I have this series, like this back to basics series, where I talk about, how to really make the most out of the last 10 weeks. I do have a video that I uploaded prior to this as well that kind of ties into it, but I decided that I want to make a video and talk about some manifestation techniques. And while I was doing like my list of things that I could think of, the list just kept growing and growing and growing. So I decided, you know what? While we're at it, let's go balls to the wall, knee deep in, and we are going to discuss literally every manifestation technique that I could think of. We got 29 in total. So it'll be a really long video. I will be including chapters. They will be in the description and in the comment section. So you can like jump back and forth, or you can, just watch the whole video if you want, because I will be giving like descriptions and definitions and like examples, if I can remember that, on how to use them. So you can literally choose whichever technique you want, but I hope that this video is extensive enough that you don't need any other video ever again in terms of like looking up techniques. I just want to make sure that you have one place where you can go to where they're all lined up, so you can pick and choose whatever you want, because I do believe that certain techniques are good for certain things to manifest. Not every technique suits every manifestation. That's just my personal opinion, which is why I'm going to try and give you examples. I just thought it would be a good idea to put them all together in one video where you can have them all in one place. So yeah, I don't want to keep rambling on. If you don't follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and on here yet, please do so if you like this kind of content. Otherwise, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. And I might be stumbling over my words a little bit today. I am sorry. I'm kind of tired today. Weather's been really up and down. So I really hope you enjoy this video, and let's get right into it. Okay, first I want to jump into what the law of assumption actually is. I'm going to do this really quickly. I do have other videos on this if you want to know. I also have videos on what the difference is between the law of attraction and the law of assumption. I have a dedicated playlist on TikTok if you want to go and look. But basically the law of assumption just very plainly states that whatever we assume has to come true. A couple of things that are really important is nobody has free will but you. You're the creator of your own reality. What else? Oh, we manifest 24/7, very important. So every thought that you have manifests, which is why, the law of attraction is very hit and miss, because you have all these things that you're supposed to do and you're supposed to meet, when it makes manifestation a lot more like complicated and difficult than it actually is. You manifest 24/7 all the time. We all do it. But your subconscious is the predominant deciding factor of what manifests. It's not necessarily your like dominant conscious thoughts that you're thinking. It's the stuff that you heard in childhood. It's the stuff that you consume through TV and music. It's the things that you do tell yourself, but on a regular basis. If you tell yourself like 50 million times a day, you're not beautiful, you are going to believe that, and you are going to get that like reflected back. People may tell you you're not beautiful, or people may not tell you you're beautiful, period. That doesn't even have to be like as outwardly and as obviously negative, or you might, automatically be put into situations where beauty somehow matters and your beauty is not recognized. There's so many different ways that can play out, which is also why the most important factor in this is when you do manifest something, because you are supposed to live from the end standpoint of already having your manifestation. The how, so the way that your manifestation comes to you, is absolutely irrelevant. You can try and manifest it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, why would you want to like stand the universe in the way? We do co-create, but it's not that you manifest this or something better. If you decide you want something, you want this. If you decide that you want something, it's because, and this is my personal belief, it's because your subconscious knows that there is a different reality where what you want already exists. So I'm sure you heard of like quantum jumping before and all this kind of stuff. We are going to get into the quantum jumping in the techniques, but at the end of the day, there's a million, different parallel universes, realities, whatever. I do see a lot of people currently addressing what's going on, just in our world, politically and in society. And I do believe that this is also a time where we should manifest as a collective to manifest what we want. And that's a little bit of a problem with like mainstream news and TV and all this kind of stuff. It manifests a lot of fear within us. And the more afraid we are of something happening, the more likely it is to come true. So if you see something on TV or read in the news, or you hear, people saying they're worried that this will happen and it makes you fearful, know about it, recognize it, and immediately change your mindset and say, okay, no, we're not accepting this. This is not happening. We're manifesting different. And the more you manifest in your own, like, it starts with you. The more you manifest for yourself, the more people you're going to find that are like-minded like you, and you're going to grow as a collective, and then you'll be able to manifest as a collective. So just to kind of put that on the side, I was going to do a video about this at some point maybe, but I do see a lot of people get kicked off of social media for community guideline violations, and we don't want that, because I think it's important to get that information out there just in general, so you know how it works and how it's to be done, just like all of those videos that I make with the music that helps you guys. Also a technique I'm going to discuss in here. A lot of channels have been hunted down by this platform and taken down. For what reason? There's no reason. So just know that I will be putting the videos that I make of that nature in the music playlist from now on. So you can still go and use them and all that, but I will not be, putting them under a subliminal category anymore. So just know that. And with all of that out of the way, let's get to technique number 1. Now, this one might surprise you, because technically it's not a technique, but it's what you're supposed to do when you manifest, and that is affirmations. Now, I do want to preface every technique that I'm going to discuss in here, at the end of the day, except for the affirmations, are placebos. They're just so you can have fun with it. You can find something that your brain sticks to it so you don't get bored. But at the end of the day, do you need any of those techniques? Absolutely not. You don't need any of them. The only thing you need is affirmations. I do see a lot of people say, they should only be positive, and you need to, word them in a certain way. That's not really true. Your brain does accept them the way you give it to them. Like, you've heard a lot of things in your life that were negatively voiced or worded or whatever, and your subconscious still accepted them. Like, at the end of the day, I know there are, studies that say that technically our brain, it doesn't matter to them, like, whether we say no or don't do that, and we do it anyways. Like, there's differing opinions, but I can just only tell you from my personal experience, even if I used negative affirmations, so like, and negative affirmations, I mean things with like no and don't and stuff like that, it still worked for me. Whatever I wanted still came true, because at the end of the day, I think your brain is smart enough to understand the difference and understand the intention behind it. And I think that's where, again, we make manifestation a lot more difficult and a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Because at the end of the day, you have an intention, you have a manifestation that you have in mind that you want, and you are supposed to live in the end. How you get there doesn't really matter. It's important that you get there. So I think affirmations are a really, really good way to do this. And you can just write them down. You can repeat them to yourself. I've shared, oh my gosh, I shared a study where 1-3% of people, I think, only write down their goals, and the rest of the like 99% don't. And that's because we're so busy and we forget all the time. But if you have it in front of you as a visual reminder, it just helps you stay like on track with your affirmations. Another thing that I've also seen that like people were worried about was, if I change my affirmations, will they clash with what I've had before? Like, I can tell you, no, it doesn't matter at all. I change my affirmations sometimes hourly, because I just can't stick to anything. I don't want to stick to anything. I get bored. I get tired. I don't like them. A lot of it is like perfectionism. Like, I think I could do better. So I change them into something else. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Again, intention is key here, and they don't clash, because your subconscious knows what you want at the end of the day. and living in the end is where you want to go. And whatever affirmation helps you get there is what you need. Which brings me to technique number 2, because that goes directly in line with affirmations, and that is ranting. So sometimes we just find ourselves in a place where we either need to manifest on a whim, or we're having anxiety, depression, a panic attack, maybe we're in a rage mode, you know, whatever the case may be. And sometimes we just don't want to like ramble our affirmations. And I find that a rant is really, really helpful. And the way you rant is literally just screaming out your affirmations, yelling them, getting really hyped up. One of the biggest misconceptions that the law of attraction teaches us is that we need to be in a certain vibrational alignment with our manifestation, and that's not a thing. You don't attract things to you the way the law of attraction explains, because the law of assumption works whether you are in alignment or not. If that weren't the case, you would not be manifesting all the bad stuff that you're going through when you're, for example, going through a panic attack. Just like sometimes when we go through panic attacks, we think really negative things, but we don't manifest them. If that were the case of us being in vibrational alignment and us being in a really low vibration at the time, wouldn't we manifest all that bad stuff from a logical standpoint? So that's not really how it works. I just find ranting really, really good when you're in a place where your emotions are all over the place. You're not really in a state where you feel like you can just calmly sit with yourself and figure out what you want, but you have this innate, like almost violent need inside yourself to manifest your way out of it. That could be, for example, having financial problems, or being in a huge argument, suffering through a really bad breakup, going through, so the last time I did a rant, I was actually in the hospital, and they wanted to keep me and diagnose me with something that I kind of knew I didn't have, but I was like afraid because they kept talking me into it. And I ranted for like 3 hours because they just left me there. They forgot about me, I think. They were just also very busy. And after I was in the ER for a total of like 6 hours, I believe. It was like from, I don't know, 10 o'clock to like 4 in the morning. They ended up coming back and being like, oh yeah, we forgot this one like really normal random test, and they took a sample and figured out it was something else completely. And they could have sent me home after 30 minutes had they like done the test right away and figured it out. But they were hell-bent on keeping me. Really, they were like, no, we're already getting a bed ready for you. We're keeping you. And I ranted my way out of that because I was like, I'm not staying at the hospital. It's not happening. I don't want to stay. So that would be a perfect example to rant your way out of a situation that you don't want. So is there anything else? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it's self-explanatory, but I think the more negative your state is, the more a rant makes sense, because it also gets all of that energy out, like all of that, you know, negative, like whatever you're going through. I also like to rant when I have like panic attacks, like really bad panic attacks, because it gets your mind out of it. It really gets you into a different place. You get all of that air out that you're like holding in. So I think ranting, and you can rant whenever. You don't have to just rant when you're in a bad place. If you just want something really fast and you're impatient, go and rant. Have fun with it. It makes sense whenever you want to use that technique. So let's go to number 3. Okay, number 3 is to journal or script. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. However, I have seen comments of people before who asked me, like, how do I script? How do I journal? And scripting and journaling, I personally consider 2 different things. So let's start with journaling. I would just see that as you making like a diary entry of like saying, you know, and always write from a past standpoint, or at least a present standpoint. Like, don't ever go into the future, but you, for example, could write, oh my God, I can't believe this. You know, I'm so happy. Now I graduated medical school and now I'm a doctor and I'm earning this much money and life is really great. And just write in your like diary, all of the things that you would want from a perspective of already having it. Like I said, it kind of depends on what you want. So you need to like kind of decipher between, am I writing in the past, or am I writing in the present? But like I said, never the future. Scripting, I would see more so as you like writing out your feelings, maybe writing a book, like almost like writing a book, taking like a really small scenario that you're lining out in the most perfect way that you would want it to look. So as a writer myself, I prefer the scripting version just because I don't like to journal. And it just makes me, like, it personally makes me feel disingenuous to journal about something that hasn't happened yet. But scripting is just different because I feel like I'm creating this fantasy scenario, still from the standpoint of it having already happened, but it's easier for me to distance myself emotionally a little bit, just because I don't want to create any more like doubt or things standing in my way. And what I also find helpful with scripting is you can use that script as your affirmation and read it to you over and over again. Like, to me personally, and this is just for me, like, if you are different, please use whatever works for you. Reading a diary entry over and over again just doesn't seem like something I would do. But reading a book about my life that, you know, has a scene that makes me really happy is almost like me watching my comfort TV show over and over again. I just know that this is something that I would regularly do. I know this is something that my brain would accept. With journaling, not so much. But again, up to you if you feel like this is something you want to do. And again, you also don't have to use it as affirmations. If you're someone who's in a really good place manifestation wise, and you know that you either have the time or you don't really care and you can let it go and you can write it once and never revisit it again, which is a way to manifest, then you can do whatever you want. Pick and choose. Some people need to revisit all over again every day. Some people can just do it once and let it go. That really, really highly depends on your subconscious programming, your beliefs around manifestation in general. Like, this is kind of where, you know, I would then hook in with like personal coaching and doing tarot readings and kind of looking into where you at. But I think that especially journaling it out or scripting it out is a good way to get started and try and do that on your own to kind of just see like, okay, where am I actually at? It's almost like making a positive and negative checklist of, okay, these are my positive affirmations, these are my negative affirmations or my current beliefs, because most of the time we're trying to replace negative beliefs. And do they really line up, or is my negative list so much longer than my positive list, which is oftentimes the way it is. And then we're trying to change all of those negative affirmations into positive ones. And I do find that, especially if you're doing something, it's called like channeled writing. You don't have to actually call spirit in or channel or whatever if that's something you want to do or something you believe in. Or it's called automatic writing, I think. Regardless, you just sit down and you just let your brain dump everything out. You just start writing. And that is really the best way to tap into your subconscious and not block yourself, but just see what comes out and just read what comes out and see, like, is this mostly negative? Is this mostly positive? Is this in line with my manifestations? Is this in line with my dream life or not? And then use that and work off of that. So even if you don't use that as your main technique, I think this is a really good precursor to any other technique you want to use, just in order to kind of see where is my mind actually at. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, the next one is the all TikTok famous whisper method. Now, I'm sure you've heard of it before. I'm sure that's how you probably found me if you come from TikTok. When people make videos about it, it often goes viral just because it's a technique that is quick, that is easy, that everybody can do, everybody understands. For most people, it works. I know it doesn't work for everybody. I do have a free guide that you can download that kind of goes through some possible options as to why it doesn't work for you and giving you some alternatives to try and fix that or try to make it work for you. But basically, with the whisper method, and I've had this question asked before, no, I would not recommend you using this for bigger things like relationships or, you know, just long-term goals that you want to achieve. I think the whisper method is good for small things. Text messages, wanting to sit down with your boss and get a promotion. And I know someone was like laughing and said, like, that's not a small thing. Technically, no, a promotion is a huge thing, but in the scheme of things, like sitting down with your boss and having a one-time conversation about getting a promotion, like the promotion in and of itself is one small moment. when you compare it to a relationship is something that is long-term, that you have to continuously work on, especially from a manifestation standpoint, which can happen with a promotion. But I think if you want to manifest a promotion, like, you kind of know what to do and you're kind of like ready for it and stuff. But, or, you know, even a raise or just a small check or something, or, you know, you want someone to give you $100, whatever. Those are small things that you can use the whisper method for. Now, the whisper method, let's go over it really quickly. You pick a person that will help you get to your goal, whether that is your SP, which is a specific person. You want them to text you something. You want them to stand in front of your door at 3 a.m. in the morning, whatever you want. You want your, I don't know, your parent to give you $100. You want your boss to call you and be like, hey, we have a promotion, want it? Imagine that person, sit them in a room where you would feel they would be comfortable. If you know what their home looks like, preferable. If not, just make something up, and you watch them from the back. So you enter, so you see yourself entering the room. I was asked before if third person or first person. First person is preferable. I don't know. Preferred, whatever. But you can use both. So I personally can't visualize from a first person perspective. I always see myself, like, always see the back of my head. I think, again, law of assumption, whatever you assume comes true. If you assume that first person perspective is the only way that the whisper method works, but you can't visualize that way, then it won't work for you. You have to make that decision. And if you have a belief like that, you should address that belief first before you use the whisper method. And now you see, no, manifestation is not complicated, but it can be very, very frivolous at times. Okay, it really can. And that's like kind of the thing where a lot of people get like hung up and then require like outside help, because we are, just from a psychological standpoint, we are blind to our so-called blind spots. There's just certain things we just can't see in ourselves, and there's many reasons why our brain is wired that way, but never mind. You envision your person, see the back of them, you walk into the room, you lean down, you whisper in their ear 3 times what you want them to do. I personally like to use their name and just say, so-and-so, you are doing this for me, or you did this for me, okay? But never, you are going to do this, because we're already done. It's already done. Then you turn around and you kiss them on the forehead, which I see in versions where you can do it or don't. I mean, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And then you leave the room. And as you leave the room with the back, like, it's almost like having eyes in the back of your head, you see them already doing what you want them to do. So maybe they're getting their phone and they're, you know, scrolling through, looking up your name, whatever. And you walk out of the room, you close the door, and, oh yeah, by the way, you're supposed to visualize all of that in your mind. Like, some people ask me, should I say it out loud? No, you don't have to say it out loud. You just sit, you visualize, you see it in your head. It's almost like a mini meditation. And once you're done with that, you wake up, and if it helps to kind of just say to yourself, and it's done. This has already come true. And then you go about the rest of your day as if it's already done. Some people who are very, very well versed in this sometimes get, if they want a text message while they're doing it still. Some people get it 5 minutes after. Some people get it 24 hours after. That's just, again, kind of depends on you. But the most important part is, don't go around your day after you're doing it checking your phone every 5 minutes. Oh, did I get my text message? Where's my text message? That is not what we're doing, because that's not living in the end. That's showing that you have doubt and you don't believe that the method actually works. My personal guideline is, if whatever I used the whisper method on does not appear within the first 24 to 48 hours, you can either try again or choose a different technique. This is not something where you're supposed to wait a week or 2 for it to come, because that's just wasting time. You're not supposed to do the whisper method like every day. You can, but that's kind of not the point of it. The point of it is to do something quickly, do something right now, and then get it pretty immediately. Other techniques are much, much more suited for long-term goals, like we discussed, but that is the whisper method, which brings us into the next one, very close to it, the telephone method. Okay, so I have made a video on TikTok about the kind of voicemail method. I'm going to use that separately. That is going to be the next one. So this one is only really working. I mean, you can visualize it. I find it helpful if you have somebody to talk to that you can call up and kind of say like, hey, we're going to do a manifestation, you know, technique or exercise right now. Like, can you just work with me? But again, you can still visualize that if you want. So basically all you do is either call somebody up Or envision a phone conversation that you have with somebody where you talk about the thing you want to manifest as if it already happened. That's literally it. I find this one particularly helpful if you have like a row of events that you want to happen, so almost like a storyline that you're following. And one of the reasons why this one is so effective and so important is because we oftentimes call people to complain about our problems and about our shitty life and about all the things that have happened to us. Problem is, you manifested all those negative things. So the second you call somebody and complain to them, you're essentially doing the telephone method without doing the telephone method. You're not consciously realizing you're doing it, but you are actively affirming all of the bad, negative things you don't want in your life, which then in turn obviously results in you manifesting more of that. So, and I know this can be like really overwhelming because it's almost like, oh my gosh, now I have to watch everything I do and everything I say. No, we don't have to watch everything we do or say, but if we call somebody up to talk about something negative happening in our life, usually there's a lot of emotion behind it. Usually there's a lot of ruminating that kind of went on. Even if it's something that just happened, this is still something that you've manifested over a longer period of time, and you're kind of sitting with these thoughts and these emotions, and now you're getting them out and you're talking to somebody about them who's then reflecting back to you whatever reaction that you're getting, cementing that manifestation and getting more of it. So let's say you're in, and I think this is something that you've probably noticed before. Let's say you're in a relationship with a narcissist, okay? And you start to see like their red flags. And let's say you call, I don't know, your mother every other day, and you tell her every other day how bad it's getting, like how bad it's getting and how bad it's getting and how it's getting worse and worse and worse. I can guarantee you, the more you call her and the more you talk to her, the worse it actually gets, because it just escalates. Why? Because you are probably getting fed back from your mother, whoever you're talking to, that they know how this goes. There's all these red flags, and it's only going to get worse from here, which is what your subconscious is hearing every single day, even if you are not affirming that. If you're just telling them like, oh, this is happening and this was bad, and they're telling you every day, oh, don't worry, it's only going to get worse from here, that's exactly what you're going to get. It is going to get worse from here. So even if the telephone method is not something that you want to actively use, please be mindful that every time you call somebody and complain about your life, you are still using it. Now, I know it can be really difficult to call somebody and kind of talk to them in a way that describes something that hasn't happened yet. It's easier if this is someone you don't talk to on a regular basis. So I had a client that went to a family event where they haven't seen people in a really long time. And I told them, like, this is the perfect opportunity. You haven't seen these people in a long time. They don't really know what's going on in your life. And they were manifesting something very specific at the time. And I was like, everybody who asks you, hey, how are you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Tell them about what you want to manifest. Tell them as if it's already happened. They can't fact check. They don't care to fact check. But it was a perfect exercise for them to get in a good state of mind. And about 2 weeks later, like 2 weeks after that event, they manifested that and more. Like, it was out of this world what they got. And that's usually how it works, because they were literally meeting so many people that they haven't seen. And so they were repeating their manifestation over and over and over again, but got amazing results back. So it's almost like, this is why the mirror method, which we are going to get into too, is so effective, because you're, getting the feedback. It's almost like you're manifesting twice. So, but that is a little bit different than the voicemail method, which is going to be the next one that we're going to get into. So method number 5 is the voicemail method, which is one of my absolute favorites. Again, I really like to use this for like chains of events or just things that, I mean, it kind of depends, but usually things where I just know I need to talk about them. It's a little bit similar to a rant, but basically all you're doing is you're getting your phone and there's the voice memo app on it. And what you're doing is you're recording a voicemail for an imaginary person. Doesn't really matter. Just pick someone that you know who you would leave this voicemail for, and then just record. Just go crazy however you would talk to them if whatever you just manifested just happened to you. And that's the video that I did on TikTok, where I basically said, you would literally just record and be like, oh my God, hey, how you doing? Like, can you imagine what happened to me? And then you just go off and off and off. The difference between this one is, you know, that when you leave a voicemail, you're not going to get an immediate like feedback and reaction, which I find a little bit easier to visualize if you don't have someone to bounce off of right away. And after you recorded that, you just listen to it over and over and over again. It's a voicemail that you leave to yourself, but still pick an imaginary person, just because it's easier to then, if you do decide to build on that with other techniques, to then use that person to keep moving forward and then like bouncing off responses that you get from them. But that's pretty much all there is to it, to the voicemail method. You can literally go ham. You can record 30 minutes of you just rambling about how great your life is and how things have just turned around, and you know how upset you were like a week ago when things weren't going well, but now everything is going great. Just go crazy. And you can listen to that however many times you want. I usually find, because this is again pretty charged emotionally, so for me personally, I would normally record about 20-ish minutes, and I would listen to it maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and then sometimes within minutes and sometimes within days, I would manifest pretty much everything in that specific order as well. Because again, remember, you're the creator. You decide what happens. Now, the difference is I did not manifest a how. So I didn't say like, oh, this happened because of how this happened. It was literally just this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. It was just a natural chain of events of things happening. But the way that it was like different scenarios, just, you know, going one after the other pretty much. So, but I didn't really say like, this is how the scenario came to pass. Because again, it's not really up to you. Oftentimes this creates massive blockages, which will either result in you not getting what you want at all, or not getting it in the way you want it. So one of the biggest things about manifesting that we need to learn is the balance between being in full control of your reality and your manifestations while letting go of control and trying to micromanage every little thing about how our manifestations come to pass. So anyway, let's get into the next technique. All right, the next one may come as a little shock to you, because this is basically what the law of attraction is known for. But the next technique that we're going to discuss is vision boards. Now, I personally am a huge obsessive lover of vision boards. I've always been into vision boards. Even when I was like knee deep in the law of attraction, vision boards were the only thing that ever worked for me. And I'm going to tell you what I did differently to a lot of people that I see making vision boards is from the very moment that I started making them, I did not put like goals or like vision board or whatever. I literally put dreams achieved or goals achieved or to-do list or something that basically implied that I already had it and I literally was just in possession of it. So, or it's something that I knew I could achieve pretty easily, quickly, somehow I wouldn't have to worry about it. It's almost like okay, I tick these things off kind of thing. And I also used to do this with like affirmations and stuff. And especially with the vision boards, what I found worked best for me was to actually not have them in front of me every day. I did the vision board, I put all of the stuff on there, and then I put them away. I found that the more I had them in my vision, the more I kept being reminded of not having it yet, if that makes sense. And when I did the vision boards and I put it away, like I still kind of knew in like the back of my mind what I wanted, but just spending this incredible amount of time doing the research and picking the things that I wanted really ingrained my subconscious to a point where it was enough for me to have done that and then just put it away and know like, okay, it's mine. I don't need to look at it anymore, because why would you look at your vision board of things you have? So, and I remember I manifested my cat, like the exact cat. I printed out his exact picture and I didn't even know. I manifested my car, I manifested money, I manifested moving. Oh my gosh, I manifested so many different things with my vision boards. And whenever I would put something on there that I wasn't sure of, that I kept in front of me all this time, those are the things that I've never been able to manifest. And now I'm using different techniques in order to manifest them, because again, like I said, not every technique is for every manifestation. But if you use a vision board in the classic sense of doing it in a way where you put your dreams and you look at it every day and you dream about it and you think about what action steps can I take, and we've already discussed this, no action should be taken if you're manifesting, that's not manifestation, then there is a chance that you might not be able to get what you want. But if you just use it as a visual tool to write down all the things that you want, or just put pictures of it, sit with it, ingrain your subconscious for a little bit, and then put it out of sight, out of mind, because you already know, like, okay, everything on here is already mine. That's basically the way to use it. You can, set yourself a timer, and maybe after 3 months, or like an alarm or whatever, and then after 3 months, like, pull it out and see, like, okay, what did I actually already manifest? Okay, what didn't I manifest yet? Is the vision board still the right thing for me, or should I maybe try other techniques with this? Do I still have more time? Did I set myself a deadline or not? You can use it as a stepping stone to kind of, tick off things as you go, but it's not something you should have in front of you all the time. So yeah, but it's still one of my all-time favorite things because I just like visual reminders like that. So that's why I thought it would be important to put on this list. Okay, the next technique, which is probably my, I don't want to say second favorite because it's up there with vision boards, is of course subliminals. If you are not new here, you already know this. I am obsessed with subliminals. I make them myself. I make them for you guys. I like to support other channels. I shout out other channels as well. If you ever want to know, like, not every channel does the same thing, and we're always doing so I sometimes find that when I listen to other people's subliminals, it's actually easier for me to make them work for myself, just because I am sometimes too close to my own. But I find when you know how to make subliminals, to be an incredible tool. So if you don't know what subliminals are, so if you see like these videos on YouTube where there's like weird pictures and then it just says like cry me a river, or I can fix him, stuff like that, those are usually subliminal audios. You click on them, you will hear music and nothing else, and then when you scroll down, it will say like, oh, these are the benefits of this clip. So basically what subliminal makers like myself are doing is we're taking a bunch of affirmations, and this is not like easy to do because you really have to think about it and be careful and make sure that you include everybody. And there are some subliminal makers out there that abuse their privilege and don't have the best intentions, so just be like mindful about that. And basically what we do is we take these affirmations and then we it kind of depends on what kind you like. So some layer them, we edit them, we speed them up, whatever you want to do. And you basically alter the affirmations that you can either record yourself or you can use a program like I do. And then you layer them underneath the music at a level where you can't consciously hear them, but your subconscious can hear them. And the nice thing about that is that it just goes right past your conscious. And I find that it just doesn't build up a lot of resistance or blockages, just because you technically can't hear the actual affirmations. You know what they are supposed to do to an extent, but you don't know for certain. So I, for example, uploaded one, I don't even remember which one it was, but I think it was about confidence or something. And one of the things that I put in there was to have better posture. And someone left a comment and said, I didn't read the benefits that you put in there, but I felt really, really compelled to sit up straight and have a straight back, which I usually have very bad posture. And when I read the benefits, I was like, oh, it's in the subliminal. So your subconscious really takes it on and really works through this pretty quickly and pretty easily, and you can oftentimes see results within sometimes minutes. A lot of people also report that they get results while they're listening to the subliminal still, and you can loop them, you can have them playing when you're working or doing your chores. I just find them a really nice tool that if you are someone who likes to listen to music anyway, you can just let them play in the background while you're going about your day-to-day life. And I don't think there's any easier way to manifest. I also like to use nature sounds or just music without lyrics. The thing is, like, it's nice to use music with lyrics, but sometimes it can be a little bit iffy because we are going to get into that. Even music is a manifestation tool, so you would just need to keep that in mind. But overall, I think they're a great tool and they're one of my favorites, which is why I like to include them in my channel. But yeah. So that's the next one. Let's see. I think we should maybe just go into music and TV next. Kind of lends itself to that. So the next technique would be watching TV or listening to music. So I actually made a TikTok today where I talked about how I've been watching a certain TV show. and one of the characters had a very, and it was reality TV, but one of the people had a very triggering storyline. And the problem with that is that it excuse the dog, reminded me of trauma that I used to go through. And just watching it, even though I've worked through a lot of it and haven't really encountered a lot of it, because I felt really anxious and depressed recently and just overwhelmed and burned out, and it was kind of my comfort show, watching it over and over again really reactivated my trauma in my subconscious, and then resulted, I mean, it's not funny, but it resulted in me experiencing the same exact trauma in my own personal life, and it wasn't great. And the problem is, especially if you know about manifestation like I do, and you know better, but then you bring yourself in this situation, it can be really stressful, because sometimes it can be really hard to get yourself out of that. So what I had to do in order to reset myself was I changed the music that I was listening to and the TV shows that I was watching. I'm not watching it any longer, which is hard for me because, again, it's my current comfort show. And what I also did is I cut those people off completely. I'm not speaking to them currently at all, just because I realized that I needed a break, and I can't. It's really hard to manifest change in a personal relationship sometimes when they're in your face. Now, the benefit that I have from this particular situation is that we don't live in the same country. So it was easy for me to just cut it out and say, okay, we're just not going to talk on the phone anymore right now. But the last time we spoke was very negative. So it wasn't great, which is why it's important to always check your subconscious and always see where it's at. And if we, are depressed and put on our favorite true crime show or a favorite TV show, and for my case, it was Teen Mom too, we don't think about the fact that it has any consequences to, or any like direct connection to what's going on in our life. Like, that just doesn't seem like something that would make sense, but that's unfortunately what happened in my case. So but I've recognized it, and I'm changing it now, and I'm working through it, and that's great. But for the time being, wasn't so great. In turn, what you can do is, if you have a TV show, especially reality TV is really good for that, just because our brain realizes that it's reality a little bit more, is to watch stuff that you want, right? One of the best shows for women, especially who want to be financially successful, is watching Selling Sunset. There's a lot of bitchiness, but there's also a lot of really like hardworking, successful women who kind of have their life together. Some of them are happily married or having kids, the whole nine yards. So, hi, editing me here. Quick side note, if you are watching Selling Sunset and you are someone who likes Christine and watches her storyline, just be mindful. She does have a mindset coach that she goes to through one of her friends or something. That person is teaching the law of attraction, not the law of assumption. Be really, really mindful about that, because that's literally what we're not doing here. We're doing the opposite, more or less. So just be careful when you watch it and you see it and you're like, oh, they're doing manifestation too. They're not doing the manifestation that we do. I've had videos about this. Again, if you want to know more about this as to why the law of attraction doesn't work for you, but I just thought it would be a really, really important disclaimer, because it also took me a minute to see the difference. And then I ended up having one of her videos on my For You page, which is how I know that she teaches the law of attraction, and they're all about positive energies and matching energies, vibrations and stuff like that. And that is toxic positivity. And I don't want you to fall into that rabbit hole. Or just listening to music. One of the biggest things that we do when we go through a breakup is listen to heartbreak and sad music, which prolongs our state of being miserable and depressed and heartbroken. If we were, let's say we manifested a breakup, if we from that moment on started listening to music, and I'm not talking about like bad bitch music of like, oh, I'm gonna, whatever, but listen to like love songs, for example, which can be very hard and painful, we would actually be able to manifest a reconciliation a whole lot quicker than listening to heartbreak music and going through all that trouble and that trauma that we're every time we listen to music like this, we were living the breakup and the trauma, and we don't even realize, and we're ingraining into our subconscious that it's never going to get better, which is why it can take so long to then get over this relationship, get a new relationship, or fix the old relationship, whatever you want to do. So, okay, the next technique might be a little out of pocket, but tarot readings. Now, I know that a lot of people assume that tarot readings are a way to, like, you tap into spirit and you predict people's futures, and that's just kind of what they have to deal with, or they can like take action and change it, and then maybe they can like switch things around. That is actually incorrect. What tarot readings do is, so we're all energetically connected, we're all telepathically connected, we can talk to each other, all this kind of stuff. And when you do a tarot reading for somebody, all you're doing is tapping into their subconscious in a way that they can't do themselves due to the blind spots that we discussed before. And you are showing them what is currently going on and how the whatever situation that they're asking about will play out if they do not change their subconscious beliefs the way they are right now in order to get a different outcome or result. So it's not a tool of divination in a traditional sense. It's basically just a direct pathway past your conscious into your subconscious, telling you this is where you're at right now. This is what will happen if you keep going. And the reason why we can do tarot readings on other people in your life as well is because, again, you're the creator of your reality. Every relationship that you have with the people in your life is designed around your subconscious beliefs that are telling you how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the person, how you feel about your relationship with them, how you feel about relationships, period. So your subconscious determines the outcome of everything, which is why when we do tarot readings for you and we are talking about not just you, but other people that you are connected to, just like I just did a reading on a karmic, on the karmics in general, like for TikTok, for the collective, which is also how we can read the collective. We're just tapping into that energy. And the reason why, for example, when you go on your For You page, a lot of readings, there might be like the odd one here and there, you're like, doesn't really fit, but most of the readings on your For You page, you're like, wow, that actually fits. Like, I can't believe how accurate that is. That is based, again, on your subconscious, because you're again, we're not attracting things, but you're pulling things into your reality based on whatever is going on. So if you are asking for a tarot reading or you're looking for a tarot reading, that is what you're going to get. Just like, and I'm not saying that that's not true, when you are thinking about something or talking about something and then all of a sudden you get an ad for it. I know there's people that are saying like the government is listening in. That's like a discussion for a whole nother thing. But whether they're listening in or not, doesn't matter. You're still pulling that into what you're doing because you're thinking about that. So one of the things that I, for example, noticed was when I watched a TikTok video of something that went viral, that was hard to find. Or I watched someone wear certain something in a TV show and I really wanted that, and I would go to the store the next day. They would usually have it. And almost every time they would have one and one only and one in my size if that's what I wanted. Or just like the viral Hello Kitty mugs. I wasn't looking for them. I don't really like Hello Kitty, but I went to TJ Maxx and I found one and it's really cute and I bought it. So I kind of thought about, and that's the thing, I didn't want to buy it. I wasn't looking for it. But I remember when I saw the video, I was like, man, it would be really cool to manifest that. I wonder if my store has a viral one. I'm sure they have one just because I decided they have one. And I went 2 days later and they had one. So that's how it works, you know, and that's why it's so important to always kind of, you know, watch a little bit what you're doing. But a lot of the times when it comes to deeper things like money and relationships and the big stuff, tarot is an amazing way to tap into those areas that you can't consciously access. And that is oftentimes, so when I tell you guys to get coaching with me, or if I think it makes sense for you to get coaching with me, I will most of the time tell you to get a tarot reading with me first, or depending on which like package you buy, you can have a tarot reading with it. I'm currently like reworking this stuff because I think that, and you can opt out of that and say, I don't want tarot readings. There's people who don't want it, but I think if you are someone who's open to it, this is an incredible, incredible tool to use. It's one I use for myself. I have a deck that I made that has limiting beliefs in it. That's not a very nice deck, but it's a helpful deck. And when I pulled for myself, I didn't like what I saw, you know, but it still helped me really unearth a lot of things that I realized I really needed to work on and stuff that I didn't really want to accept for myself, you know, or face. So tarot can be ruthless, tarot can be cruel at times, but it's like your honest best friend. If you have a best friend and they're a real friend to you, they will tell you things you do not want to hear because they know it will benefit you in the end. And tarot is a little bit like that. I consider it a friend, pretty much. All right, let's get into the next technique. Okay, the next one is the elevator or hallway technique. Now, I've seen different like iterations of it. Sorry, Jesus. Different iterations of it. But I'm just going to tell you how I've used it before, how it kind of worked for me. And you can research it if you want and like alter it. But basically the way I use it is, so I would envision a really long hallway with lots and lots and lots of doors. I think that's how most people actually describe it. So this is all stuff that I've gathered over a long period of time. Credit to whoever came up with these. If you know who came up with them, please give credit. I'm always happy to give credit where credit is due. Like, I don't want to take anybody's method or whatever. This is just stuff that I've, collected over a long period of time. So I'm just pulling from my mind what I can remember. So basically what you do is you envision a really long hallway and there's like plenty of doors, and every door represents a manifestation that you want, or a life path that you want, or, a timeline that you want, if you will. And same thing with an elevator, all the buttons that you can press for whatever floor you want to get on. And basically what you do is you envision the perfect manifestation, life, timeline, whatever it is that you want. And then you either go through that particular door or press that particular button to that floor, and you access into that and you step into this new version of yourself. And you know that once you walk through that door, you're in that timeline. There's no changing it. You can always change it, but basically the reason why it's supposed to be so final is because it helps you subconsciously and consciously step into your living in the end state of mind. That's basically what you're trying to do. So you're where you are right now, but you're taking physical action, physical step into your reality in your subconscious mind. Because one of the things that people don't understand oftentimes is that our subconscious is the only present moment. Like, if you think about it, everything that surrounds you isn't really present. You always have a thought first that happens, and then you see some outside manifestation of that. So, and that's the crazy thing. Like, we live in our mind first, and that's why our subconscious, it can't differentiate between something you think or something you experienced. That's why a lot of people, especially when they went through trauma, or when they have some sort of mental health issues going on, sometimes, and this is a great coping mechanism, by the way, they will have memories that they remember in a way that they didn't actually happen, but they're doing this to protect themselves, or to, just try to not relive that particular trauma. But again, that's not how it happened in actual reality, but their brain remembers it like an actual physical memory. They can taste it, they can feel it, they can smell it, they can see it, everything surrounding that memory they experience as if it really happened. And I just like the elevator or hallway method because it literally gives you can even envision your inner child. Put them next to you, take them by the hand and say, okay, you know what, this is the past. You can even assign doors to past realities that you've had, and say, okay, we're closing the door on this. We no longer need this one. You're in a neutral, it's like Matrix style, in like a neutral hallway. And you're taking this inner child, you're saving them from the bad timeline that they were in, and you're taking them into your new timeline with you. And I think just even doing that little step will heal a lot of trauma that you might be going through, because you don't need to relive it all over again for the rest of your life. There is also something called revision. We're going to get into that too, that a lot of people do like to use when it comes to trauma and stuff like that. But in general, this is a first grade step to at least feel like as an adult, you're now doing something for that child that the actual adults in the situation did not do. Okay, so the next two are kind of going together, so I'm just going to explain them basically as one. And that's the pillow method and basic just witchy spellwork. So there's this video going around on TikTok where you take your person's name and you write it I think 3 times, and then you write your name over 3 times and you fold it and you put it underneath your pillow. And it's supposed to make them obsessed. First of all, I have 1 or 2 subliminals that kind of borders on that a little bit, but in general, I don't really like the concept of obsession, because people don't know what they're getting into, and there are a lot of people who say, I've done this and kind of backfired on me. You don't want anybody obsessed with you. If you're the creator of your own reality and you have full control, why don't you want them to genuinely love you? You can still make them almost worship you, if you will. but in a healthy way, not in a creepy, weird, dangerous, obsessive kind of way. And obsession is usually something that comes with a negative connotation. So I don't really recommend that. But basically what you can do is just take a piece of paper and write down your manifestation as if it's already come to pass and put it under your pillow. It's almost like the tooth fairy, you know? And even with basic spell work. So I grew up doing spell work, but it wasn't until I was older that I really realized what that meant. But no matter who you ask, any practicing witch or warlock or whatever will tell you that your intention matters. Your energy behind it matters, and that's because your thoughts matter. And so there is this thing where if people do a lot of like dark or black magic work, they do tell you that it's really draining on you and that, you know, some are worried that it comes back to them and some are not, but it is generally known that if you put out bad stuff, even if it's just to retaliate, it kind of comes back to you. And even if you consciously don't believe in it, if you grew up in our society today and you're not a psychopath who doesn't care, normally you know that if you do harm to somebody, like it could come back to you in some way. And you know that subconsciously, and you will find that people like that usually do go through certain things where they're, you know, having a spiritual awakening or they're realizing that what they're doing is not right. And I'm not talking about like, I mean, there's people who actually deserve, you know, certain things, like people who are really, really bad, but you know, just hexing your ex-BFF because you had a falling out is not a reason to put like, you know, a negative spell on them or whatever. And there are people who do this though. And that's why, again, even spell work is just a technique. It's just manifestation at the end of the day. And if you are someone who tried to practice and it didn't work for you, chances are the reason why it didn't work for you is you either didn't believe it or you didn't do it correctly or you were too afraid and maybe got, you know, the opposite result or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, no matter what kind of spell you do, it always hinges on your subconscious predominant beliefs around manifestation in general, around spell work, and around the particular situation that you're doing the spell work on. So always keep that in mind. Editing me here again. Quick thing, with spell work, however, I do have to say I find that because oftentimes when we do spell work, not everybody does it, but a lot of people do it. They do the extra work to really learn and know about entities and work with certain entities. I think that because we always co-create with the universe, but if you're picking someone in particular and you're working with them, I personally find that that is a highly skilled and highly elevated way to manifest. And it's something that I don't think gets as much respect as it should, as, you know, most people do consider it a religion or practice of sorts. So I do think that if you take the time, it's really like you're doing manifestation study while you're doing spell work study, and you're creating something that is really special and really unique, and you know, you're working with the earth, you're working with energies, and I do think it's a very, very highly skilled and highly elevated way to manifest. And since we're already talking about techniques you can do before going to sleep, the next technique I want to talk to you about is, I don't really know the name of it. It's basically just visualizing before you go to sleep, and one of the good things about that is your brain waves are at a certain stage right before you go to sleep where your subconscious is really receptive to anything that really comes in. So there's this thing where I don't know where I've heard this from. So basically they say when you visualize a situation really, really vividly and you intend to dream about it, you will oftentimes dream about it. You don't have to dream about it. And dreams are like a whole other topic that we can discuss at another point in time. But basically, if you are, so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to visualize a very small scene, 5 minutes tops, that embodies you already having your manifestation, and you're supposed to loop it over and over and over again. Because once you fall asleep, your brain automatically will continue to loop that. So you're getting all that repetition in. And I've said this before in a different video, but it takes about 10K repetitions to get it going and about 80K repetitions to really ingrain it, where it becomes like second nature. But we think about 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So at the end of the day, like in that grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem as much as when you just say, oh my God, I have to repeat that 80,000 times. Like, I don't want you to be deterred by that or anything like that. But yeah, that's really a good way to just let your brain do the work while you're sleeping. And again, it doesn't have to be in a dream state, but you can also, and this is the thing, like, you can even tell your brain when to wake up in the morning. So I very rarely use alarms. I don't like them. They stress me out really badly, but I have yet to, like, I think it happened to me like once or twice in my life where I actually overslept. So if I make a decision, I want to wake up at that amount, like that certain time, I do within 15 minutes of that time frame. And your body is your best internal clock. So if you're someone who who has a problem with an alarm clock, try that for a while. And just basically set yourself an alarm like 15 minutes after the whatever time you set has passed, and then try to wake up on your own and just keep going until your brain gets there and does it on its own. Just like when we are tired throughout the day or having like slumps or what else, or just health in general. I mean, everything can be controlled by your manifestations. So just be mindful of that. And so there's this book by Dr. Joe Dispenza that talks about how you can like heal yourself. Which I think is really good, because if you think about it, if you go to the doctor, most of the time it's bad news and they're telling you all the bad symptoms that you have. Like, very rarely they will tell you positive stuff. You know, they will give you treatment and they will give you pills and all that, but at the end of the day, your mind can pretty much heal anything. I mean, my grandma, she was, and she does manifestation through prayer, but she healed someone from cancer through that before. So she was the creator of her reality. Her friend got sick and she made the decision she was going to pray for them and heal them, and she did. So I've seen it happen with my own eyes, and I've also seen, you know, there were people in her life who did her really, really wrong and really dirty, and they got very sick shortly before they passed away, and she kind of wanted them to repent before they passed, and they were struggling for a while until they actually ended up repenting, and then they passed. So she was kind of in control of that, which freaked me out a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, again, you are in control of that. Which also, by the way, I don't think I've said this before, if you are worried about someone manifesting for you or about you or like goes over your head, that's not how it works. You're the creator, you're in your reality, you make the decisions. And that's why I would say, you know, you guys can do bad, but just choose good, because the more you choose good, the more good comes to you. Like, there's really no reason to be, you know, hateful towards anybody or just send them bad vibes, because at the end of the day, like, that still comes back to you, I believe, even though karma is not real. It's just my personal opinion, but it's easier to manifest positive for yourself if you're manifesting positive for other people. But basically, everybody manifests in their respective reality, but you wouldn't know because you're just a projection of their subconscious in their reality. So if you're playing the role of, basically, it's just like the movie Inception, pretty much. You're a reflection of their subconscious. So let's say you are manifesting a celebrity and someone else manifests the exact same celebrity, and that celebrity happens to actually be in touch with you for some reason, and you are dating them, but you're worried that your friend wants them as well, right? Because they're manifesting them. You make the decision who gets the celebrity. If you have doubt and if you have worry, your friend might take over. If you want that celebrity is yours. If you want to date them, you want to marry them, they're yours. But your friend in their reality is also with that celebrity, because if they made the decision just like you to manifest above your head, they are with that celebrity. But because it's in their reality, you would never know. In your reality, you're the main character, so they will always be with you if that is what you choose. So that's why, you know, a lot of people are very focused on like one person and, you know, having like, you know, needing this or needing this job or needing this house, when there is an infinite amount of everything, and there are infinite amount of realities where you have anything and everything. And especially after I chose to end my marriage, I realized that I'm not really that tied to people the way that I thought I was. Because the relationship that I had before which led me to be by myself for so long, was so painful. I thought I could never replace that ever again. So, but it really opened my eyes to the fact that, first of all, the only person I will ever have is myself. That's the most important relationship in my life. And if I want someone, I can have them. But if you are at a place where you really feel you can be on your own and you're stable and you're loving yourself, that's when you will find true happiness and true bliss. I'm literally at a point where I just feel like I know that if I want something, I can manifest it really quickly, and it takes a lot of pressure off of your life, because you're not in this state all the time of I need to have this and I need to have this right now. And if I don't have it right now and the moment will pass, I will never get it back again. One of my favorite masseuses that I used to visit, she actually, and she claims that they're twin flames. Again, if you believe in the twin flame system, I kind of do, but that's for another time. She actually got married recently to her high school sweetheart, and she hadn't seen them or him for 20 years before they like reconnected, and they were married to other people. They were doing this whole thing, and I thought that's a beautiful story, because again, it's never too late. It doesn't matter what happens right now. You can always, at that moment in time, like you watching this video right now, you can choose right now to change your reality and change your destiny and say, I'm gonna go the different direction. I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm not gonna hold like hate in my heart for anybody. I'm gonna let everything go. I'm gonna be by myself for a little while, do the work, and if I want something, I can have it back when my time is ready, when I'm ready, not because society tells me I have to be, or someone is in my ear about it, you know, parents, pressure, society, whatever, it doesn't matter. Time is an illusion. It's not real. It's about you and your journey and your happiness, and you are in full control of it. And I really, really want to hammer that home, because I think, especially if you're in the generation that I am in, we feel a lot of pressure to be a certain way and perform a certain way. And the law of attraction took a lot of my power away from me when I was in it. It made me feel helpless, and it made me feel just lost. And I lost a lot of time trying to manifest my dream life, and it didn't work. And now that I've been doing the law of assumption for a long time, and I've really, you know, took the time to be by myself and sit with myself and realize what it is that I actually want, it's a different kind of feeling. Like, it's dating yourself and focusing on yourself and being self-sustained, you know, just from anything and everybody, not just like people, but just in general, knowing that you have a roof over your head and you have everything you need, and you're internally happy because you know that the minute you want something, you can have it, is a feeling that cannot be replaced. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had this video on my For You page this morning on TikTok, and this girl, she was so heartbroken because the guy she dated didn't post her, and then he went on to someone else and posted her and was mean to her because she was replaced. And she said, you know, she didn't know how to ever be happy without him, and she put all of her happiness into him, and that really broke my heart. And I left a comment, and I was trying to, like, you know, tell her that's not how life works. But I see that happen a lot. And I see a lot of broken girls on TikTok depending their happiness on a man or a partner. And I don't want that for anybody. I want you guys to know you don't need anybody but yourself. So sorry for the rant. Not really planned, but let's go to the next one. Okay, the next technique is literally just visualizing or meditating or both. I think it's self-explanatory. I think with visualization, it's most important that you spend the time really engulfing yourself in the experience, trying to feel it, trying to smell it, see it. Again, I think the shorter the scene, the better. I think we really put a lot of like burdens in our way by thinking that we have to visualize this whole movie scene, which is not necessary. Which, by the way, one of the law of attraction techniques that I always liked to was making like a mind movie, either taking pictures or video clips and just cutting them together of like things that you want, which can help as like a guideline if you don't know what to visualize, but don't overcomplicate it. Make the scene as short as possible. Visualize from an endpoint of you having what you want already. You can look at yourself in a third-party perspective, doesn't really matter, and replay that over and over and over again. 5 minutes a day is enough. You just need to come out of that visualization feeling as if you already stepped into that reality, which kind of goes in line with quantum jumping or timeline jumping, which we're going to go into next, and really know that you are now embodying this new person. That's really all you need, and don't overcomplicate it. Take 5 minutes a day. You can even do this. You don't need to be in full meditative state. I sometimes do that when I'm driving. Not that I'm not paying attention, but my mind is going anyway. So if I put on a song that goes in line with what I want and I sing along to it, I get like images in my mind. So I might as well make the images what I want them to be versus letting my subconscious run wild. Anyway, next technique, quantum jumping. Okay, so there's different versions of this. Some people say quantum leap, some say quantum jump, some say timeline jump, some say reality jump. I know that there's actually a difference between those. If you want me to make a separate video, I'm happy to do that. But for the sake of this video, because at the end of the day, the term doesn't matter, we are going to use the term quantum jumping. So like I've said before, there's an infinite amount of realities, and there is an infinite amount of versions of you that exist, that already exist, that have everything you want. There's a younger version, an older version, a version the same age. There's a version where, you know, you have your dream job already, you have your dream money. There's a version that is much worse off than you, by the way, which I think is something that's not often discussed, but should be discussed, because it helps us be a little bit more grounded in the version that we're in right now, to be a little bit more grateful what we actually have, because we could definitely always be worse off. Let's put that out there right now, because I don't want you to think that you've only manifested bad. You did manifest some good, and it's always really, really good to try and focus on that, because it helps you manifest even better, to try and get out of that situation. Because you can only manifest better if you like know where to go and know that you've done it before. If you only have bad stuff and you think you've only manifested bad stuff, it can be kind of hard to get yourself, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So I want you to like really, really hone in on the good and the positive in your life. But quantum jumping, there's different ways you can do it. You can do it in the shower. You can do it through meditation, which I think I've wrote down as like, I don't know, I think I wrote it down as separate techniques, so we might not hit 29, we'll see. But so, and every time, so, okay, let's go through them step by step. So the shower one is where you either write out a script or think of something. You go into the shower, you close the door, nobody around you, no pets, nor nothing. Everybody is like locked out. And then you go into the shower and you literally wash your old version off, and you visualize the life that you want. And the moment you step out of that shower, you literally say to yourself, like, I just stepped into the version of, and then you say whatever you want to manifest. And once you open the door, basically you're walking into a new reality, similar to the elevator and the hallway stuff. But one thing we have to understand is that every second of every day that we are making a decision or changing our subconscious, we are reality jumping or quantum jumping. But if we then let old programming take over, it's like we're jumping back and forth, pretty much. You're always just one thought away from a whole new life and a whole different reality. That's why people say you're always one decision away from a whole new life. Yeah, because you're basically moving yourself into a completely different timeline of someone who sometimes has the same past as you. Sometimes you might all of a sudden think of memories you didn't even realize you had, or someone will say, oh my God, do you remember this? And you don't remember it. Sometimes you have deja vu. There's all these things that are very small and nuanced that can change. So it's always good to keep an eye out for that. And signs of quantum jumping are like things misplaced, things missing. You know, sometimes you miss time. I remember one time I quantum jumped. I had a pretty big jump, and I was watching a TV show 2 days prior. And when I started watching it again, it didn't start where I stopped last. It started where I stopped before I watched it the day prior, which was really weird. And then I also looked at the calendar, like I lost that whole day. That was just gone. So I knew I jumped, and it was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was probably the biggest sign of jumping that I've ever had. But small things, small changes that don't make sense. Sometimes you might even see changes in your face. Okay, I've noticed that before. I look at old pictures of mine where I like jumped, and I know I've jumped now looking back, and my face changed several times. I now have the face that I used to have kind of in high school, but in between that I looked kind of different. It was weird. It was an odd experience, but you will see that especially when people go to war and they come back due to all the trauma that they've experienced and all the things that they went through. Like their face will significantly change, and some people are partially unrecognizable. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's meditations you can do, you can listen to. There's one that I found on TikTok that I shared a while back. I'm not sure if it's in a playlist or not. That is really, really good, where you literally just sit and you think of, I think, a memory or an experience that is really, really positive, that really gets you in your feelings. And then you think of the version or the reality that you want to jump into, and you connect that feeling to it, and you just sit with it for as long as you need until it's like bringing you to tears. And when you really embody that and the gratitude that this memory now exists, that's when you basically quantum jumped. So quantum jump is not as difficult as people make it out to be, but sometimes we just want like bigger jumps or more tangible results. That's also where the Mandela effect comes from, by the way. I personally believe that anyway, because there are some things that definitely changed over time. And I don't want to get into it because I had a huge discussion with my mother the other day about whether Britney Spears had a microphone in the Oops, I Did It Again music video, because I don't believe she did. But I'm not exactly sure anymore because I'm like confused now. But basically, you can look up the Mandela effect if you want. But those are a few ways where you can really do a big jump that will bring about noticeable change in your like immediate vicinity, basically. Okay, the next one might be a little bit surprising, but when I was little, my mother used to buy me these like really, really tiny dolls that were like made out of, I don't know what they were made out of, but they were like wrapped in ribbon or yarn or something like that. And they were called like worry dolls. They were supposed to protect you. And when you were worried about something, you were like supposed to put it in the dolls and then put it in a bag and then it was gone. First of all, I think that's a really, really cute way to just remove some doubt or some blockages if you have them. But the next manifestation technique that we are going to discuss is voodoo dolls. I know, sounds crazy, but this little lady right here. So this is mine, and she has a little pouch, and you can use one without a pouch or not, but basically, and the lady that I go to, like she's a friend of mine, I like to visit her and like at her store, and she sells these, and she actually told me about this first, and the tarot reader that is in the store, she also talked about it, that I should try it, and I've been trying, and it's been just so great. So basically what I did is I put my name on a sheet of paper, and I put it in the bag, and then I put in there what I want to manifest. So this is more about manifesting good self-concept. So I put in there, you know, things that I struggle with, like self-love and confidence and, you know, being assertive, standing up for myself, things like that. And I put it in the bag and literally gave her all the things that I wanted for myself positively. Now, I know that these are kind of connected to, you know, hurting other people and stuff like that. But again, it's about assumptions. It's about what you put in them. And technically, these aren't even considered voodoo dolls. I don't know what they are actually called or what she calls them. I know they look similar to them, but this is technically about using them for self-love and healing. Because if your self-concept is not in line with who you really are and who you want to be, it can be really difficult to manifest pretty much anything. Because if you don't believe that you deserve something, how are you supposed to get it? You will never be able to fully embrace being at the state that you need to be in. That, I don't know, if you want to embody a millionaire, like they don't worry about money. They know they deserve money. They know money always comes to them. But if you're someone that comes from a household that money, like scarcity mindset was in the forefront of everything, it's going to be pretty hard for you. That's self-concept. Self-concept is not self-confidence. Self-concept is the way you think about yourself. And these little dolls, because these remind me so much of the worry dolls that she used to buy for me when I was little, where I would put like all my worry with it in the bag. And I think if you can make a doll or get a doll like that and use them for your own self-concept, self-concept is literally the foundation of every manifestation that you want. It determines the relationships in your life, the relationship you have with money. Everything you want to manifest hinges on the way you see yourself, the way you see the world, and the way you think the world sees you. Most important thing, because oftentimes even if we have a negative view of ourselves, it's more important to us to then be liked by the outside world because we're trying to make up for that. But most of the time it doesn't work. So and that's unfortunately the way society kind of has built itself up, that we, you know, crave this attention from the outside world, but it's not going to fill the hole inside of us. And having something like this where you sit with it, you put it in there, you have this little doll to take care of, and you know that this is like your mirror and this doll is taking good care of you and working on your self-concept, I think it's just a beautiful way to kind of, you know, reconnect with your inner child, if you will. So yeah, I really, really like this one. Again, one of my favorites. So yeah, I would suggest you definitely go and give that a try, regardless of what you want to manifest. Since we're already talking about the inner child, let's go back to something we all used to do as a child and then stop doing, and that is play make-believe. I don't care if you call it dress up. I don't care if you get dolls and reenact it. I don't care if you're sitting with your dog and you're playing make-believe with him or your cat or whatever. I don't care. Playing make-believe is one of the quickest and easiest way to step into living in the end. So living in the end, I think I've explained this before, but it's basically you representing who you would be if you already had your manifestation. And playing make-believe will get you there the fastest. It's not for nothing that they say dress for the job you want, not the job you have. If you are going for a job interview somewhere, you know, you will maybe find yourself practicing, going through the questions, like doing interview practices. All of that is to prepare you, because you're basically training your subconscious to do it on autopilot versus once you're there having to worry because you're unprepared. And that is why, you know, regardless of who you ask, if you ask an athlete who's been doing this for 30 plus years, they will still train just as much as they were when they first started out. They always do their mental training and they always do their physical training. They're always in a state of make-believe. The ones that are the best, they treat every practice as if it's a tournament or like a challenge, like whatever they're called. So basically, they're treating every practice as if it's the real deal. That's a form of make-believe. And that is exactly what you can do too. You want to be an influencer? Stop posting as if it's your Finsta. Post as if you are a high-paid influencer. You want to be a millionaire? How would they take care of their money? How would they budget their money? Do you want to be a business owner? How would you deal with your business? Would you have employees? Would you have this? Would you have that? And I'm not saying go and spend money you don't have. It starts here first. It's a mindset first, okay? So or you, and this example I use all the time. You want to be like, you know, a wife or a husband or whatever, and there's certain things that you may think are required. And I'm going to use like my stance because I'm a wife or used to be a wife. Back when I was manifesting marriage, I used to make room in my closet. I used to set the dinner table. I used to start like cooking certain dishes that I think my husband would like. Things like that. When I wasn't even dating anybody at the time. Like we weren't even talking at the time, okay? I didn't even know he existed at the time. So, and I was like I said, that was years ago, but it only took me, that's why I'm trying to think, but because I can't remember 100%, but I think it only took me, I remember I made my vision board for him in, I want to say late November, early December, or in December. Then I started practicing that, and in February we met, and by November we were married. So it took about a year from me making my vision board to me getting married. It was very quick. So literally embody whatever it is that you want. And if you don't know where to start, write down your manifestation that you want, and then you can either try and figure it out yourself or look up somebody who embodies everything that you want and who has everything that you want, and really study them and look at them and be like, what makes them different to me? What do I feel, see, think when I look at them? I'm not talking about like the jealousy aspect of it. It's more like, how do they dress? How do they walk? How do they talk? Like even talking will tell you a lot about what they're thinking. So you can write that down and see like what kind of thought patterns do they have? How do they live? Like what are they doing differently to me? And then write that down and really, really embody that with your mind, body, and soul. If you can't do it in the like physical present, do it in your mind. Again, we've already talked about this. The subconscious can't decipher between reality and what's going on in your brain. So you can literally sit in your PJs, you know, like hair up in the air in a messy bun and have cereal all over you. You can still envision yourself, regardless of how messy you are, in a nice designer suit, walking down New York City in your heels, just coming out of the biggest meeting, bagging that sponsorship of your lifetime, or having a great business meeting, or just coming from the best date, meeting the love of your life. Again, your subconscious can't decipher, so it doesn't matter. No matter what is out here, all of this is just past. This is just leftover stuff that it's playing out from old conscious, like old subconscious beliefs that you had, and it will continue to play out until you change them. So why not spend the time that you have envision what you want, and play make-believe. Let's get into the next one. So I've kind of addressed this a little bit already, but keep a gratitude journal. And not the classic gratitude journal that, you know, the law of attraction talks about, where like, oh, you have to be grateful and you have to get into a vibrational state. I'm literally just talking about write down things that you're grateful for, that you have right now. And the purpose of that is to understand that you manifested those, okay? It's really, really easy to lose sight of what you've already achieved. And a lot of people, you know, sometimes I see, and this is the thing, like one person will say it and then a lot of people will jump on it and say like, I can't manifest. I don't know how to manifest. I'm always getting what I don't want. But there's so much that you have gotten what you wanted throughout your entire life. Doesn't even have to be right now, but just trying to write down things that were positive, that made you happy, that happened to you, that were good. All of that was manifested, and you need to understand that and realize that. So it's a little bit of a different version of a gratitude journal, but it's very powerful, it's very important, and it's something that you should technically do every day just to kind of get your positivity muscle in your brain a little bit more trained. Because, oh, and also stop watching the news, please. I don't know why I just came up with that. I haven't watched the news in 15 plus years. I haven't missed a single thing. If there was something important I needed to know, I know about it. But there's a lot of negative messages in there. There's a lot of, you know, fear mongering. Not saying that what they're saying isn't true, but I've said this in the intro before. A lot of it is also manifested by us because we're afraid it will happen. So the less news you watch, the better off you'll be if you are trying to focus on the world you want to live in versus what you're watching on the news. But especially when you're someone who watches the news at night, can be very, very easy to kind of forget all the good you have in your life, because it almost brings you into this state of, oh my God, what is this world that we're living in right now? What is society that we're living in right now? And your small, personal, positive experiences get pushed to the side, and then you go to bed with that kind of mindset. Not the best mindset to have. Focus on the good. Focus on what you've already manifested that is good, and train your brain to really, really focus. And this is an assumption you can also make. My brain always sees the positive in everything. My brain is focused on the good in my life. My brain is focused on manifesting my highest timeline. There you go. You got some affirmations. But it's always good to have it in writing as well, to really have a physical representation of all the good you've already manifested. Now, another method that you can use to quantum jump that I kind of forgot to mention when we were, so let's go back to that really quickly, is the 2-cup method. Now, I know that this is something that is very prevalent from the law of attraction. A lot of people talk about it. The water theory, you know, how you can speak like into water and it changes its molecules and the frequency and everything. Again, this is not about frequency, but basically what you do is you take 2 cups. One has, you basically write on a piece of paper your current state, and then on a piece of paper the state that you want to be in. You fill the cup of water, like you fill the cup, with your current state with water, and then you pour it into the cup that has your desired state. That's a way of quantum jumping. That's really all it is. I know some people say it works really well for them. For me personally, it never really worked. I just think because I didn't really believe in it. It wasn't really my kind of thing. I didn't really vibe with it, which is okay, you know. And I also think when you use this, you do need to be in a certain state of mind. So there's people who say, oh, you can go from broke to millionaire in a day. That's not how it works. There are some people that can do this, but I can guarantee you from personal experience, decades of research, and just living life, that if you are at a point where you can manifest becoming a millionaire overnight, you've done the work to get into a quote-unquote millionaire mindset. And that takes time, because you're unlearning weeks, months, years worth of old trauma and negative beliefs, and you can't do that in a day. That's unrealistic, because you need to give yourself the time to unlearn those things, which is why I think it's better to manifest in smaller steps. People always ask me, why don't you have 1 million followers? Because I don't want to. I know I'm not ready. I would never be able to handle it. I manifest in small steps. You can actually see this on my account when I manifest followers and when I don't. Currently, I am manifesting followers, and you can see them growing on both of my accounts and on YouTube. And when I don't manifest, because sometimes I don't feel like it, or I feel like, okay, I'm at a good place, I kind of need to process this and do some more work, then I plateau. But I plateau by choice. And that's what you need to understand. Even if you are plateauing, don't see it as a negative. Ask yourself, why am I plateauing? Why is my brain doing this? What can I learn from this? And how can I move forward in a positive way in order to work through my beliefs, right? Like release all of those negative patterns and then continue to manifest what I want. That's a good thing. Your brain sometimes protects you in ways that you don't realize. Just because we have negative subconscious beliefs doesn't mean that they're always negative in nature. Sometimes they're protective in nature. And to be honest, like I said, if I had 1 million followers overnight, I would probably freak out. I watched the Hulu show with the D'Amelios, and I wouldn't wish their mental anguish. That's the word I was looking for. Their mental anguish that they go through with this sudden overnight fame that they obviously very clearly struggle with a lot of the times. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Broke my heart to watch it, and I wouldn't want to put myself in that position. So manifesting step by step is not always a bad thing. So if you want to do the 2-cup method, do it with smaller things, smaller steps. Don't try to get something overnight, because if your brain is at a point where you can get it, doesn't mean that you're emotionally ready. So you can manifest things that you think you wanted and then end up getting them and realizing that's not what I wanted at all. Assess your mental health and your emotional state first, and then decide how far do I really want to go. Again, time is an illusion. If you are a millionaire tomorrow or a week from now or a month from now or a year from now, doesn't matter if in the meantime you are still financially stable. Does that make sense? Because if we want to manifest being a millionaire, that's about stability and comfort. That's not about money. So then you need to reverse engineer. Why do I even want this? And if you then realize this is why I want it, then you can manifest in smaller steps and still get the same result and get the same emotional reward out of it as if becoming a millionaire overnight. Okay, the next technique I want to discuss is a little bit similar to just visualizing, but that's bringing yourself in a state of flow. So if you don't know what a state of flow is when you're doing a hobby or something that you enjoy. So for me personally, it's video games. And while you're in that flow state, which is where you're very focused and you're in the zone and you're in a really good emotional place, then you manifest. Plus, what also happens is when you do this often enough, you condition yourself. Classic condition from psychology. So every time you go back into the flow state and you're doing something, your brain automatically connects to that positive experience where you were manifesting whatever you wanted. So if you haven't received that particular manifestation, you will still continue to manifest. If you want to manifest something new, it'll be easier for you to tap into that energy. Regardless of what you want, every time you go back into that flow state, your brain will be like, wait a minute, we're supposed to manifest right now, and we're supposed to make it happen quickly, and you will. The next 2 methods are kind of going hand in hand, but I am going to explain them separately. The first one is the Eavesdrop Method. I've already talked about this one in a TikTok of mine, and very simple. Basically, you envision yourself overhearing someone having a conversation about you, and you think about what would you want them to say, right? When you're at a party, you hear your name, someone's talking about you. What would you want them to say about you? Try to be as detailed as possible. Again, you can either record this, you can envision this, you can script this, however you want. But it's a really good exercise to kind of step out from outside yourself and maybe even use somebody whose approval you want, okay? Someone you want to make proud, someone you want to impress, because that gives you an extra push of just emotion. So there's this artist, doesn't matter who, I love him. I'm like low-key obsessed with him. And he wrote a memoir. And in it, he said that one of the biggest reasons, and he said it's not the best motivator and he doesn't recommend that, but one of the biggest motivators for him to keep going in his career was to get revenge on the people that didn't believe in him and to just kind of shove it in their face. And he had a phase where he was pretty aggressive with people who were even when they were already at the top of where they wanted to be, people were still not taking them seriously. And he was very vocal and adamant that they were douchebags for that. But pretty much his whole motivation was revenge. Not exactly always the best motivation, but sometimes it's a pretty good motivation. So if you use the Eavesdrop method, try and use it on somebody who you really want to impress, and they're, talking to somebody else and being like, wow, I didn't think they could do it, but look at them now. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're at. I think especially with eavesdropping, I just personally don't really see myself. How am I supposed to put this? So I wouldn't really, if I were in a real life situation like this, I wouldn't feel the need to eavesdrop on somebody who I know would speak positively about me either way. Why would I have to listen in knowing that they're going to say something positive about me regardless of whether I listen in or not? I would want to eavesdrop on the people where I'm not sure whether they would say something positive, or the people who I know criticize me or think that I can't do right and be like, oh, what are they going to say about me next? And then all of a sudden I eavesdrop and it's like, wait a minute, they're praising me. Hello. So just and that's the thing, like every method that you do, at the end of the day, it's important to kind of find a connection to your real life experience, because the more real it feels to you, the easier it is to kind of bamboozle your subconscious into believing that it is a real memory. So choose what you will, but that's just how I like to do things. And I'm sure, or hope so, that this will help at least somebody. Which brings me to the next technique, the congratulations method. Same thing, similar thing, almost also can be used with the telephone method, if you will. Just envision somebody congratulating you for having achieved whatever it is you want to manifest. Preferably maybe somebody, again, who you want to impress, or even somebody who you know would be really, really freaking proud of you. Just somebody where you're like, yeah, this is who I really want to hear this from. Like this comes from a genuine place and I can accept that. There's really not much to it. Again, you can script it, envision it, record it, whatever you want to do. This would be, for example, a great scenario to envision before going to bed. So the visualize before going to bed technique that we talked about, this scene would really, really perfectly lend itself to it. It's short, it's precise, it's to the point, it's easy to visualize, it's easy to connect emotions to, and it's something that even if you end up dreaming about it, it's not necessarily something negative, you know? It's very, very easy to put yourself in that place. So I think this is a great little scenario to use whenever you don't know what to visualize even. If you're in a bind and you're like, I got to do something, I want to manifest something, I don't know where to start there. Easiest and quickest thing to do. You don't need to think about it. You literally just have them say like, oh my God, hey, congratulations on becoming a millionaire, becoming an influencer, getting married. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. Boom. And you're done. And you loop this. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Loop that ish over and over and over again. There you go. You manifested. It's not that hard. The remember when technique. Not necessarily one of my favorites. I'm just going to include it because I think that there might be some people who could really benefit from this. So one of the things that I absolutely despise with a passion is when I've worked on myself and I've, done a lot, and then I have someone come up and be like, oh my God, remember when you did this, or remember when you were like this. And I'm just like, that's not helpful. I'm trying to move forward. I don't want to deal with this. However, sometimes it can be really helpful. Let's go back to Teen Mom 2. Chelsea, her storyline, and she's not happily married and stuff and has kids and all that, and a great stepdad for her daughter. But a couple seasons back, when she was still with her baby daddy, she was miserable because he was really mean to her and stuff. And her dad was like, in a couple years, you're going to look back on this and you're going to be, really, really happily married with a great person. You're going to have your dream life and you're going to look back on this and be like, what the hell was I thinking? And in one of their most recent seasons, I don't know if it was the dad or the mom or Dr. Drew, somebody at the reunion said, remember when we were sitting on that couch, or you sitting on that couch and you were having that conversation and you were crying ugly tears, and now look where you are. That would be a great example. That is not necessarily, I think, super triggering for her. She's more like, yeah, well, hindsight's 20/20. But take a situation, if it fits, where you are currently in that situation, but moving forward, whatever you want to manifest makes you a situation inherently better. And and this is the thing, even if we are in situations that we don't like, we always know. People can tell us whatever they want, like leave, change, do better, do this. We don't want to hear it because technically we do know that we're supposed to do better, but we get embarrassed because we don't know how to get out of it. So we close the blinds and we don't want to hear about it, even though we know that we need to do better, but we don't want to disappoint the people in our lives. We feel embarrassed and ashamed and all of that, which is why I'm giving you these techniques so you can change your life. But your situation right now would be the remember when. So again, same thing as before. Script it, write it, use telephone method. Even you can even call somebody and be like, hey, we're going to do a manifestation thing if they're into it. Or you can use my mom and I have a code word when we want to talk about something that we are manifesting. We're using that code word, and then moving forward for the next 5 to 10 minutes, we have a conversation as if whatever happened already happened. And basically you would then say, remember when I was sitting there and I was so broke and I was worried about my bills, but now they're always paid and I don't live paycheck to paycheck anymore. I have so much money and I don't even know what to do with it. I can go shopping whenever I want to on a whim. I don't have to look at price tags. Like, it's so great. Like, remember how upset I was back then and I didn't even know what was to come, and look, here I am now, and how great is life? That's pretty much it. Again, minimum of 5 minutes would be beneficial. If you can't do that, at least try to do it throughout the day, like at random times throughout the day, if you think about it. And this is even something you can do by, like, on your own, by yourself. Just even doing the dishes and being like, man, remember when, you know, even talking to yourself, talking to your pet, it doesn't matter. Just being like, man, remember when? You can record yourself. It doesn't really matter. I know some people like to record like their older versions to then look back on it. But again, remember, even if you're recording this, even this recording that I'm recording right now, by the time it's uploaded, it's already way past, right? I've filmed it, I've edited it, I've uploaded it. That's not the same person anymore. You know what I mean? That's already a different version of me. After I uploaded this video, there will be another version of me. So even if you record something right now and you look at it 2 minutes after you've recorded it, you can already be a different person. You can already have quantum jumped out of that place, depending on where your subconscious is at, and already have the life you want. And you're looking at the past being like, you know what? That's fine. And that's the thing with manifestation. Your reality can change at any moment in time. So don't harp on it. Don't go looking for it. That's the whole point of living in the end. If you're living in the end, you already live in the reality that you want. You don't go looking for it. You don't go searching for it. You don't keep checking your bank account, social media, whatever it is that you're bothered by. You don't, even if you want to date and you don't feel super inclined to, for example, get a dating app and you're just doing that out of desperation, don't do it. Would you have a dating app if you were happily like taken? No, you wouldn't. You would be with your person. Focus on that. You never know what life is going to bring. The how is not up to you, just the what. And that's all that matters. Okay, the next one is also one that's pretty famous, the 369 method. Now, I've seen different versions of the 369 method. Some people say you're supposed to write it like this. Some people say you're supposed to write it like this. But at the end of the day, I think it was Nikola Tesla. Is it Tesla? I don't know. Someone. Back in the day did numerology and said that the 369, like sequence of numbers is somehow important. It's somehow a divine number and it has divine connection or whatever. And you're supposed to write your affirmation 3 times in the morning, 6 times during the day, and then 9 times at night. And this is supposed to somehow bring your manifestation to you. Do it if you believe in it, if you're someone who likes numerology, if you think this is a method that you can stick to, you can set an alarm, and you feel like this is a good way to repeat your affirmations, go and do it. All you do is, you know, write them down in the sequence. Make sure you, again, go into the present or the past and just write down your affirmations. That's pretty much it. Not a whole lot to it. One of the beautiful things about that is that you are getting reminders throughout the day. You're doing the biggest reminder right before you go to bed, and it can help you live in the end state a little bit easier just because you're consistently having to remind yourself throughout the day. And that's why I always say, like, people who have anxiety and ruminating thoughts always tell me, like, oh, we're worse manifestors. No, we're better manifestors. Why? Because we think about it all the time. So might as well change those thoughts and think about it positively all the time. We have the ability to obsess over it. And once we figure out a way to catch our thoughts when they're negative and turn them around into a positive, you become a super manifester. Better than anybody else who doesn't have anxiety. It's a superpower. And once you're done with it, you can actually manifest anxiety away too. It's not as easy as you might think, and it also might not happen. Like, you might not wake up one morning, not have anxiety anymore. Some people, for them, it works that way. For some, it doesn't. But at the end of the day, you can still use it to your advantage. That's what I was saying in terms of making your brain see the positive only. Nothing that you're going through is a negative. You are this way for a reason. And the most important thing is to try, like, for us to try and find the positive in it that will help you manifest the best way possible. Okay, home stretch. The next technique is the 555 method. I think it's what it's called, or 55 times 5. So pretty simple, self-explanatory. Basically, you just write down your affirmations 55 times and you do it 5 days in a row. Pros of that is that you get a lot of repetition in, that it's pretty straightforward, simple, easy, and you only have to do it once a day. The cons of it is it's pretty time consuming. I personally, for example, get carpal tunnel in my hand, so I can't really do it that much, and you really need to have patience and sit with it. And so when you do this particular technique, you can't or shouldn't type it out. There are studies that show that when you use your hands, so you handwrite something on a piece of paper or even an iPad, like I personally like to use my iPad, that it has a different connection and a different way of getting like from your hand to your brain, pretty much, because you're processing it differently. So if you do want to choose to use this technique, you need to do it, you know, writing by hand. Again, if this is something that you like and you don't want to waste like a whole lot of time doing other stuff and you just like to journal in general, then this is really a perfect exercise for you. Otherwise, it's definitely not one I would super recommend. Just in general, I mean, like I said, it's good to get the repetition in, but it's really important that, and I do think that this is a little bit of a danger when you sit with your affirmations and you write it out 55 times, you can kind of get tired and burnt out and like overloaded. And once you're done writing that, if you then go about the rest of your day not thinking about it, not living in the end, not watching your thoughts because you're so burned out and overworked by it, it can have the opposite effect, or at least backfire on you, or at least delay your manifestation. I haven't mentioned this before. You can't screw up your manifestation ever. It's not a thing, but you can certainly delay it. So I do see a little bit of danger when it comes to this particular technique, but I still want to include it in the list because I want to make sure that the list is as extensive as possible. And I know there's a lot of people that actually really like this particular technique and this method, and they use it religiously and it works for them. I just think it's for a very, you know, specific type of person that already likes to write, that already likes to journal, that doesn't get, you know, burned out or bored easily, and that really benefits from that particular type of repetition. Okay, the next one is pretty straightforward again, and that is writing a letter to your future self. So this kind of depends a little bit. So there's two ways you can go about it. You can either write a letter to your future self or to your past self. So let's start with the future self. You would basically write a letter from your standpoint today, telling your future self how great their life is going to be. You know, you can literally do that to kind of foreshadow what's going to happen. It's similar to getting a tarot reading done, I would say. And to basically say, you know, you don't need to be sad or you don't need to be upset right now. Like, this is the life that is going to wait for you. And I know this is like writing into the future a little bit, but this is a really good letter to write to yourself in order to unearth limiting beliefs in terms of things that your subconscious might be hiding from you that could stand in the way of you getting your manifestation. Because when you write a letter to your future self and you realize that by writing it, it doesn't really feel organic or natural, or you feel like something is missing maybe, or you just have this like this icky feeling in your chest, this like tightness where you're like, something isn't right, then you know that in order to actually get your manifestation, you still need to work out some things, and you need to really unearth like, what's going on here? What is bothering me? Why is me predicting my future in this way not giving me like nothing but happy feelings? You should be ecstatic and living in it and feeling it and breathing it. And if you're not doing that, then there is something wrong with whatever you're subconsciously believing that needs to be addressed before you can even manifest what you want to begin with. Now, the opposite of that is obviously to write a letter to your current self from your future self, basically telling you, you know, how great your life is now, how amazing it is. So it's basically just the other way around, but you're writing from a past standpoint. So you would, for example, be writing, you know, it's similar to the remember when exercise, just that you're writing it down and you're basically telling your past self, like, this is what we went through, but it's okay because look where we are now. Look what we have now. Look at, you know, the journey we took and the things we learned and how great everything is now. And you're literally hyping yourself up and speaking from the person you want to be which, by the way, can literally help you embody being that person, which then in turn helps you quantum jump into that version that you want to be. So there's two ways you can go about this whole letter writing. I just think it's a beautiful thing in and of itself. I learned back when I was in therapy, while I was going through some really like heavy stuff, I was told to write letters to the people that have hurt me and to write a letter of forgiveness. And at the time, I couldn't feel that forgiveness at all. But me writing that from a standpoint of someone who had already forgave those people, the more I read it and worked through it and literally sat with it, the more I could feel myself, for some people, actually forgiving them, and for other people getting more and more enraged. And the more I sat with it, the worse it got, which then showed me like, wow, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. There's a lot of work that is standing in the way. And we all know that if we hold grudges, it's like us drinking the poison and hoping the other person dies, because it doesn't matter to them. I mean, maybe it upsets them, but it will never affect them the way it affects us. And holding grudges, like dis-ease causes disease. It's not for nothing, and this is known, that cancer can be caused by holding grudges and holding on to trauma. It's a physical manifestation of trauma that you went through and things that you haven't gotten over. So forgiving someone else is never for them. It's for you and you alone. And writing letters from your future self or to your future self can also unearth things that you may not have forgiven yourself for. Oftentimes it's when we, for example, want to manifest an apology from somebody. The only person you need to manifest an apology from is yourself. Because basically you have something in your subconscious that allowed a certain kind of behavior. And this is not about like victim blaming. This is about taking responsibility for now knowing that you can change something. Oftentimes the subconscious beliefs that we have, we're not responsible for. But if we know that we need to change them or can change them in order to have a better life, I do think we owe ourselves a responsibility to make our lives better by changing our thought patterns. So technically, at the end of the day, you are seeking forgiveness within yourself, even though someone else has done something to you. And when you forgive yourself, that's oftentimes when the apology comes very quickly. We blame ourselves for things that happen to us, not realizing that our negative subconscious programming actually stem from other people that have ingrained that into us, but we carry that with us, and it is our responsibility to do the work, which sounds unfair because obviously we didn't choose that trauma and we didn't want to give that to us. But you will find, and I've seen this before, I've experienced this before, that when you want an apology from somebody who's really hurt you, oftentimes you don't get the relief that you thought you would by getting that apology, because it still doesn't negate all the hurt that you still have within yourself for putting yourself in that situation, if that makes sense. So I think it's a very fine line between, and that's the thing, like, don't blame yourself, but know your power. I always say, yes, it can be kind of shocking to find out that manifestation comes with taking responsibility, but with responsibility comes a lot of power. You can't be the creator of your own reality without being responsible, if that makes sense. And that's the whole thing. Like, when bad things happen to us, those are oftentimes rooted in subconscious beliefs that people in our direct environment that we grew up around, that were supposed to protect us, they didn't do their job. They ingrained all these really bad things into us. And then we grow up and we live through that victim mentality over and over again. We're replaying our childhood, and we are reliving all this trauma all over again, right? It's trauma reenactment. Hi, editing me here. I also forgot to mention, even if you had the best childhood, things went great for you in school, you never got bullied, you always had friends, you were always popular, you can still have bad experiences that stem from bad subconscious negative beliefs, because our society is hardwired to give us a lot of really bad subconscious beliefs, which is why I tell you guys, don't watch the news. Be careful even what music you listen to. There's a lot of music from a lot of artists that actually has really bad messaging in it, sometimes subliminal, sometimes outwardly, So don't always think that it's just people in your environment. It can also be, you know, just whatever you consume in terms of media, or even when you go to school. Maybe you have like one teacher, you know, that constantly says stuff that in particular affects you for some reason. That can screw you up for life. So it's kind of, there's a lot of places that it can come from, and it's really important to try and find those places and really, really figure out what it is, where it came from, but acknowledging always that it's not yours to begin with, like that this wasn't something you asked for, because the more you distance yourself from it, the easier it will be to replace with something that you give yourself. So every positive affirmation you speak into your subconscious, you gave yourself. Always see it from that point of view. While the negative beliefs that you have come from somebody else and they're not yours, so don't claim them as yours. You don't have to suffer unnecessarily through your life based on somebody else's negative beliefs. So learning manifestation is about breaking out of that cycle and breaking that generational curse so you can have a better life for yourself. It's not about them. It's not about the people that hurt you. You know, it's not about like not being able to feel your pain. It's not about that. It's about making sure that you don't repeat your pain moving forward. I want you to watch this video and know that you can change your life today. You will never have to go through the same pain ever, ever, ever again. And that no matter what it takes, you will be doing the work in order to have a better life, because everybody deserves that. Everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you've done in your past. I don't care. I want everyone to be happy, and I want everyone to have a good life, and I want everyone to have the life that they want and that they deserve. Which I know sounds shady, but I'm talking about like deserving a good life, not like have the day you deserve. I'm talking about actually deserving a good and comfortable life. All right, we're almost at the end. So the next one is the mirror method. I kind of touched on this a little bit prior in the video. And that's really just saying your affirmations into the mirror. First of all, you have to make eye contact with yourself, which can be uncomfortable. And it really builds up like self-confidence, and, you know, it really, really helps when you do self-concept affirmations like I am loved, I am lovable, I'm chosen, you know, I'm always everyone's first and only choice, people respect me, people love me, whatever you want to say. It doesn't really matter. But you're also doing your affirmations double. It's like you and your mirror reflection are doing your manifestational affirmations, which I think is really good. Is something you can do in the morning really easily. What I used to do for a long time is I wrote down on a little like post-it note some affirmations. I would just put them on the mirror, and then every morning and every evening I would just read them to myself. Sometimes I would do just general affirmations. Sometimes I would do actual goals that I wanted, like I want to reach this many followers, I want to make that much money, I want to have this and this and this. And I would just look at them and be like, yep, I got this. This is what I have, and you're good to go. I find general affirmations to be a little bit easier just because when you put actual goals on there, you can get lost in the, well, I'm looking at it, but I don't have it yet kind of mindset. So it can be a little bit tricky when you do affirmations that are goal oriented. But if you are someone who doesn't really fall into doubt and who can still live their day, like basically saying, I'm putting this on my mirror to remind myself that I already have this, or I am living this already, then I think this is a perfect thing for you to use, whether it's about self-concept or goals. Okay, I was going to do this as an extra one because I wasn't sure whether I was going to get 29 together or not, because I conglomerated some, but the next one is revision. So we've already talked about the fact that the subconscious can differentiate between a memory that we have made and a memory that we kind of came up with. And revision is exactly what it sounds like, changing the past. Now, I've shared the story before where I helped someone, they deleted something off of their computer that they could not get back. And they were incredibly upset because it was a big deal. And we revised it on the spot and said like, no, it's not deleted. It's still exactly where it was. And not just that, it's newly updated. It's in the best state possible. We set these affirmations for like, I'll say like 2 to 3 minutes. And then we had a normal conversation. We kept it moving. And then 10 minutes later, they were like, I don't even want to tell you this, but it's back and it's updated. So we basically went back in time. And the biggest factor in this, I think, was the fact that we kept on conversation as normal and didn't bother with the fact that these things were gone, or we just revised it, because after we acknowledged that it was back, we kept conversation moving as normal. So we were living in the end of already having gotten it back. And that was what made it come back so quickly. Now, revision is a beautiful tool where you can change anything. You want to change a breakup? You want to change a bad purchase? You want to change a bad business deal? You want to change health problems? You want to change, let's see, what else? Trauma. Okay. I know health issues can be a little bit difficult because we don't always like know to pinpoint exactly where they came from. But if you have, for example, like an accident where you sustained injuries that are now long lasting, you can reverse those. Okay. You can say, I mean, the accident can still stand, but your injuries could have been different. Or if you just got broken up with, you can revise that y'all never broke up. You're fine. Everything's great. And keep it moving as if y'all never broke up. Say it to yourself, live it, breathe it, do whatever you need to do. I personally like revision for trauma. So, and I've told the story before where there was something, and I remember this very vividly, that happened when I was younger. And one of my parents was responsible for that and they never acknowledged it. They always denied it. And it really, really caused me a lot of problems as an adult. So I decided, well, if they're pretending like it didn't happen, then I'm gonna start pretending like it didn't happen. So I kept revising it and I didn't pretend like it didn't happen. I changed it around completely. I made up a whole new story. It was one very specific scenario that I was thinking of and I completely changed it. And I told it to myself over and over again until my brain started believing it. And now this core memory, whenever I think about it, is a different kind of memory. Yes, I technically consciously know that I changed that memory to an extent, but because I repeated it so much, when I think about it in a way where my subconscious takes over, the first memory that pops up when I talk about this is the new memory that I implanted, not the original memory where it actually came from, that I had to change. And I can tell you this because as I just told this story, I literally saw a vision of the new memory that I implanted, which was a pretty nice little nugget just there. But there's literally nothing you can't change. You don't like something that happened in the past, rewrite it. Rewrite history, literally. It's not the same as though denying something happened though. So if you are confronted with something and you lie about it or you don't want to acknowledge it and you keep pretending like it didn't happen, that's not the same thing. Because at the end of the day, you still know that that didn't happen. And you're doing that in order to not take responsibility. Or if you're even encountering somebody who does it to you, it doesn't have to be you, it could be the other way around. If you're being gaslit, for example, not the same thing. Yes, we are technically gaslighting ourselves to an extent, but with good intentions and also with the goal of replacing a bad memory to make it better. Gaslighting is kind of meant to make you feel bad. So what we're trying to do is make us feel better about the situation, not worse about the situation. Again, you can script this out, you can record it, but the goal is to repeat it as often as is required until the moment you think about this or somebody brings it up, the first memory you have is the new implanted one, not the original one. Once you got there, everything around you has to change. The universe has to conform because you jumped into a different timeline. So what does that mean? Situations around you will have to change. The people around you will remember it differently. They will talk about it differently because I then called that parent and talked to them about it. And they, again, still denied it, but it was different. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you could tell that they weren't denying it out of a gaslighty place or out of a denial place. We were literally talking about it as if they was like, no, this is not what happened. This is what happened. I was like, oh yeah. And then we kind of talked about it and we had the same quote unquote memory, even though that memory is not real. That memory doesn't technically exist in the timeline that I was before. Maybe it exists in the timeline now. I really don't care. At the end of the day, to me, it was important to address the trauma that it brought to me in my adult life, which is why I changed it. I don't really care about the past anymore, but I still needed to go into the past in order to make not just my present, but also my future better. So it's really important for you to kind of look into what can I revise? Should I revise something? Not every trauma has to be revised. Not every bad situation has to be revised. You can move forward and change your path through just manifesting a different path. But there are some things that we have a really hard time getting over. And for those instances, I think revision is a really beautiful tool because it takes a lot of pain away that you should not continue to relive every day, because there is something that can be done about that. So I really hope that helps you. Okay, we are finally at the last one. Now, I do want to give a trigger warning for this. If you are triggered by themes or topics surrounding passing of your own or passing of other people, then please skip this one. But this is one that, so back when I was kind of reverting back and forth between the law of attraction and the law of assumption, and I was kind of pushed into Christianity, so classic spirituality, or religion over spirituality the way I do it now. There was this incredible pastor I used to listen to. I loved her. I was obsessed with her for a while because she taught me a lot. And one of her exercises that she liked to do or talk about, and I don't know if she actually learned that in school, I don't remember, was to write your own eulogy. Now, I know kind of sounds weird, but if you think about it, if you write out the way you would want people to talk about you after you're gone, you're not just setting a small goal for a small manifestation you want, you're planning out your entire life. And sometimes if we feel incredibly lost and we don't know where to start and we don't know where to go, and small things don't really make sense to us, or we are in a really bad place where we feel like our life has no meaning and why are we even here, or why are we doing this? Planning out your whole life and saying, but wait a minute, this is what I want, this is the legacy I want to leave, this is what I want to be known for, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Just that one exercise can push you from this timeline into this timeline where you could have a whole new life. You could be a brand new person. And I think it also is a really good exercise if you are someone who likes to procrastinate on manifestation. I'm someone like that. I always think I have more time than I do. And I have days where I don't feel good just from a health standpoint, because I've kind of been falling off of manifesting my health, or just manifesting in general, just because I've been doing a lot of other stuff that took a lot of energy out of me. So I don't really feel like manifesting. And doing this exercise kind of puts your own mortality in front of you and really gives you like this kick in the butt of like, wait a minute, where am I at? What am I doing with my life? And why am I not manifesting different? Should I manifest different? What should I manifest differently? I think it's a really, really good exercise to do to really put where you are at into perspective. And this doesn't even have to be like changing your whole life. Maybe there are some things right now that you want to write in your eulogy that you already have. You've already manifested. That is an incredible thing to have in there, because it will show you like, wow, I did actually already manifest this. I want to be known for this. I can be known for this. And having it in front of you, similar to the gratitude journal, can really give you this extra push to be like, I can do anything. I can achieve anything. I can manifest anything because I've already done this. And if you are someone who will do this exercise and write everything down and realize they have not achieved anything yet, please don't use this as discouragement. Use this as sort of a wake-up call to say, okay, wow, I haven't really, done what I wanted to do just yet, but I wrote it down. I'm committed to this now. With the minute of me writing it, I'm already stepping into this new version because I already made now a written down plan of what I actually want to do with my life. So now I have all the tools, because this is all you need. We've talked about this. You don't need to take action. I did a video about this a while back if you want to like get a deeper look into it. And now, thanks to this eulogy I wrote to myself, I'm going to start life over, all over again in this new timeline. And I'm going to make whatever time I have left. And again, doesn't matter how old you are. I'm going to make that count, because I do want my eulogy to sound exactly like what I've written, which I think is a really, really beautiful exercise. I think this is also a really good exercise to do with your teenager, if you are a teenager or have a teenager, to kind of just show them like, don't waste your time. and that's the thing, like, I'm in my 30s. I do sometimes feel like I've wasted time on certain things, but then I'm like, okay, that's fair. But there's people who started, when they were 60. I'm not gonna dwell on it. I'm just gonna try and make the most of it right now, because I know that regardless of how big I think these goals are, things can happen overnight. They've happened for other people before. I've done a lot of work just mentally, months and years of just shadow work and, working on my limiting beliefs and stuff. And again, doesn't have to be, it's not the same for everybody. Sometimes we do that work without realizing. Going through trauma can actually do some work for you. Trying to work through that trauma by just holding yourself up a little bit, going into hermit mode, if you will, can also really, really help you working through some of that. So don't compare your journey to anybody else's journey, is my biggest takeaway from this. Everybody's in their respective timeline. Everybody is on a different manifestation journey. And the most important thing is finding your journey. Once you realize that your reality is the only one that matters and you're the creator, you can make yourself the most important person, and you should make yourself the most important person in your life. You shouldn't compare yourself to anybody. You shouldn't be like, oh, they have more or they have less or they don't deserve it because I deserve it and I don't have it. No, you already have it. You don't need to be jealous of anybody. Don't need to compare yourself. You don't need to, bring other people down to make yourself feel better in terms of like, there's this one creator that I've seen recently, and she does, and this is the thing, like, she does a lot of videos about how great she is and how valuable she is. And it's always like, I'm the most valuable, I'm the greatest, and nobody's as great as me. If she really felt that way, she wouldn't have to tell everybody in like every video. She would just know, like, insecurity screams and confidence is silence, or something along those lines. So if you really embody that, you know that you don't need to tell other people. Why? Because telling other people is seeking validation. You don't need to seek validation from anybody. You know you're good enough. You don't need to tell everybody you're good enough. You know you're valuable. You don't need to tell people you're valuable. That's not necessary. Know in silence and in rest and just your own peace of mind that you are the creator. You're good enough. You're in control, and let your energy speak for itself. People will know. People will know without you telling them. Your energy says more about you than the words you say. And that's why the eulogy is so great, because you're letting someone else speak on your behalf things that you already know that were so deeply ingrained in you that you embodied that out to other people and left that impression on them. It's something you can do once a year on New Year's, for example. And I think it's a really, really great way to just, and that's the thing, you can even include like, however old you want to get. Like, I don't want you to write this and then be afraid that you're manifesting something bad happening to you. Like, that's not the point. Again, what you assume comes true. If you assume you're writing that because 90 years from now, you know what I mean, you're going to pass, then that's what's going to happen. Don't be afraid and don't let fear rule you, because the more you're afraid of something, the more chance you have of actually manifesting it. Yes, it can take some time, but don't ruminate on it, okay? Know that this is just fear, and you can give it a name. If you're going through anxiety like this and you're having bad thoughts, you can literally tell your brain, hey, this is an anxiety attack. This is a panic attack. I'm having negative thoughts right now. They're not manifesting because they're not real, and my subconscious will not ingrain them and make them into a pattern that has the opportunity to manifest itself. You can tell your brain that. I don't know if I've said this before. Talk to your brain. Tell it what to do. We let our brain rule us when it should be the other way around. Okay? Don't let it rule you. You're in control. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I absolutely lost track of how many techniques I actually recorded. I'm going to go and edit this now, so I'll figure it out. I'll try to get this video up as quickly as possible, but this was a long video. This was an important video. This was a fun video. And yeah, I don't know. If you have any more ideas of things you want me to talk about, please leave a comment down below. I always want to take that into consideration and, put that on my list. I have a huge list of things I want to film, but I always want to listen to the audience first. If you guys have something that is really pressing and really important to you, tell me. I'll make a video about it as quickly as I can. I, as you have seen, have tried to be a bit more consistent with uploading on here. I have kind of ghosted TikTok a little bit. I am on TikTok, but not as much anymore, because I want to focus my time on here. TikTok can only give me so much, and I think long form content is really where it's at, because there's so much that you guys need to learn and that is need to be known, and I really want to make the best of it. So I really, really hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart if you've made it this far. And I appreciate everybody who follows me, the support. Like, I'm so grateful, because I'm really passionate about this and I really want to change y'all's lives. And the fact that you're giving me so much feedback and you're so supportive and you like the way I explain things, which I know it's like an insecurity of mine a little bit. I get like weirded out just because I am neurodivergent, and I know people sometimes have a problem with that, but the fact that there's still so many people who like the way I do things, I really appreciate that. And I just want you to know that you're loved and much appreciated, and that I will do whatever I can, and I will do my very best to help each and every one of you get the life that you want and you dream of and you deserve. So I'll see you guys in the next video.